I'm going to try and answer a question today, what productivity improvements people find by using TaiRox tools. So why would somebody want internet-like searching inside Sage 300? If you've only got 50 customers or 100 items, you probably don't need this. It's when people get large numbers of vendors or items or customers that this kind of searching will help them find the person they're looking for, and I'm going to demonstrate that shortly. You probably know that Sage 300 has customer inquiry, which shows all of the documents related to a customer in one window, but they've never had vendor inquiry. Well, one of our productivity tools is just that, vendor inquiry. Something that I'm going to illustrate is if you have a multi-company installation where you have multiple Sage 300 companies, you'll often find that after I have more than 5 or 6 or 10 or 20 companies, I really want my chart of accounts to look exactly the same, or the same except for perhaps a different segment. I'm going to illustrate that by showing you extended GL accounts. And then there's some specific kinds of automation that we provide. For example, you may enter 10 exchange rates from the Reserve Bank of Australia every morning. Wouldn't it be nice if that was already done for you overnight, error-free and ready to go? You'll find if you use GL consolidation that it's a laborious process, especially the more companies that are involved, where you have to log into one Sage 300 company, do a consolidation export, go into Windows, copy some files around, log into another the consolidation company, do the import operation, and then you have to repeat those manual steps for as many companies as you're consolidating. We provide a product that does it in one step. And another reason that people might buy our product would be if they have a lot of payments and a lot of invoices that need to get matched up. In other words, they may take a lot of prepayments. Looking at some of the benefits we provide for order entry or purchase orders, most of these fall into the category of Sage allows you to do an operation on one order or one purchase order, but there are situations where you may want to change dozens or hundreds of purchase orders in a single step. For example, a vendor discontinues an item and you've got 300 active orders and you want to substitute one item for another on those orders with or without changing the price and various other options. Or more and more people have internet sites where their customers are ordering some or all of their products, and in many cases the products have already been paid for on the site, and there's a process to bring those orders into Sage 300. But now what you really want to do is ship or invoice all of those orders in a single step, or both. A lot of what we do involves keeping your data clean, and that may mean the third bullet point, completing or deleting hundreds of orders or POs. Once a PO is 3 or 4 or 5 years old, you're never going to complete it. Same with an order. And so your inventory statistics don't make sense because they've got all these things that are on order or on purchase order, and we can complete or delete them very quickly. Likewise, the last bullet point, as you start to get larger and larger databases and you've got more years of history, you don't run Sage's Clear History because it may take days to run, but you have thousands of old inventory items that you don't even sell anymore, and they're mucking up your sales statistics, and you really just want to clear the history and get the job done in a couple of hours instead of a couple of days. Kits is another area. If you since not very many people use kits, let me just throw that out as something that we focus on, and if somebody would like more details, I can answer that in the question period at the end. I'm going to talk about 5 different products today. Sorry, 6. These are the 6 products. The first product, Productivity Tools, actually involves 50 different programs that will appear on the Sage 300 desktop. And sometimes people think that's multiple products. No, it's just one product. The other 5 are more focused product that do one specific thing. So I'm going to talk the most about productivity tools today. What I will tell you, if you go to TaiRox.com and you navigate to the productivity tools page, you can click on a link that says PDF handout, and you can download this PDF document. And you can see it describes, there's a front page that describes some general things, and then there's one page per module. There are links that you can click on to view the user guide for that particular program, or many of the key programs will have YouTube links where you can look at a video that may go into a little bit more detail than I'm going to cover today. So I'm going to roll right into looking at how our products work. So suppose you have a chart of accounts that you have, and it's identical across 10 companies, and now you decide you're going to add 5 or 6 accounts. Well, are you really going to want to log into each company, add those 5 or 10 accounts to each company laboriously, one at a time, with mistakes that need to be corrected? We would say, well, no, you wouldn't. So I'm going to show you Productivity Tools is organized by module, and you can see we have tools for AP, AR, GL. There are lots of tools for inventory and purchase orders, but let's look at a typical GL tool. So now I'm trying to maintain accounts across multiple companies, and you'll see that this is just the Sage UI, and our program, all it does is it calls up the Sage user interface and then adds a button down here. Now, if you've typed in 5 accounts or edited 5 accounts, and then you click on this button, those 5 edits or additions would appear in the bottom section here. But you can also filter by various ranges and then show the accounts that comprise that range. So let's suppose that I've just entered these 7 accounts in one company, and I want to copy those accounts to another 10 companies. How would I do that? Well, there's various buttons if I want to cherry pick, but let's say I want to copy them all. I click on the copy button. And now you can see all of the companies that are on my site. I can select which ones I want to copy to. And there are various other options that allow you to do a restricted operation so as to protect yourself. Because although nobody has added any of these 7 accounts in the other 10 companies, if you say insert only, it won't add over top of another account. And there's several other options that you can pick from, but generally people will say copy, and now they need a username with sufficient rights. In this case, it means the right to maintain GL accounts in all of those companies. And if I enter the password, we're done. And whether I copy to 1 company or 10 companies, it's much the same. One of the things I want to comment on is that we like to do what we consider a professional job. And anytime we're affecting a lot of changes or potentially a lot of changes in a database, we always keep a log file. And you can see here that this is the log file. Who did the log file, what the accounts were. And you can see because I selected insert only and the account already existed in my target company, probably from an earlier demo, it doesn't copy over top of it. So we keep a complete log of what we've done, and we protect you from doing things that are not allowed by Sage 300. So that's a quick look at extended GL accounts. If you go and look at our video, you'll see an example of substituting segment codes when you do a copy to other companies. So I'll just make that comment and then return to my slideshow. And note that when I say, what can you copy to multiple companies? These are, looks like 12 of the 50 programs in productivity tools, and they each will copy things from one company to many in much the same way as I've shown you for a chart of accounts. I'm now going to look at another program called Extended Customers, which does a little bit more. You can see some buttons here that we've added, and in the contact area, you can see that we've got multiple contacts per customer. How does that look in real live mode? Yeah, I'm going to close my GL accounts, look at accounts receivable. And actually, before I go into extended customers, I'll go into extended customer inquiry. And just to give you an idea that this is, again, the same user interface as Sage, but it has a smart finder in it, and it will also launch our extended customers. So again, we've got the same interface here, where if I want to copy a customers, I can select them, load them, copy them, look at the log. But you'll see there's some other things. So I said I'd talk about a smart finder. Let's just clear that out. How would I find a customer? Yeah, well, that's true. Let's just do that. If I want to find a customer and I know that, well, they're in Toronto, well, I can type TOR, but you'll see that it's picking up this a bit larger, things with TOR in the customer name, as well as the city of Toronto, Doctor. So you can see that we're matching simultaneously in multiple fields. And if you've got a large number of customers, this might narrow your search down. It'll also, of course, may give you too many results. And so if I want to narrow that down, I can say, well, really, it's Los Angeles that I'm interested in, biz work. And then I've narrowed the search down. And then I can just select the customer here. So that's showing you a little bit about internet searching. You'll notice that we've also, as well as you can use the Sage Finder or you can use our Smart Finder, we also have added website, email, and address buttons. What do those do? Well, if I click on the address button, it's actually going to call up Google Maps and show you where your customer lives on the map. These are simple things that you would expect to see in any web-based product, but we're also adding them to the desktop. One other thing I'm going to show you about customers is the ISO standards being enforced. So if I am enforcing ISO standards, let's see if I can find somebody in Australia. Well, let's just change their country to Australia. Oh, I'm going to use them. Country, Australia. It forces the code. Why would you want to do that? Well, you might want to do that if your end of your shipping process goes to a tracking company or a shipping company, and they require, in order to track your shipment, they require ISO standard codes. And so we've got finders for countries, and then depending on the country, we would have a finder for the states or provinces that would be in the companies. The states are, I think we support all of the ISO country codes, and we support state or province codes for Canada, the United States, and Australia. So that's an example of another one of our products, or one of our programs in productivity tools. Excuse me here. Let's see, what else did I want to show you here? Okay, I'm going to skip. One of the reasons people buy our product is we add a whole bunch of stuff to the Sage order entry, and that can mean smart finders for orders, for customers, or for items. And it can also mean, let's go into extended order entry. Again, we're calling up the Sage user interface, and we're overlaying our own buttons on it. And you can see I've got something here turned on, so that if I go to an order, you can see that, oh, okay, as well as the item quantities for that order in your current location, you can also see other locations in the same company or other locations in different companies where you can see that item. So if I click on a different row, you'll see these numbers get refreshed. And that's, of course, the situation where somebody may not have anything in stock in one place, but they have it in stock at another store or another warehouse or another location. Just going to turn that setting off. Do not display. Yeah. And then what else do we have? Well, you can see that we've added margin columns, because for some industries, they want to make sure that there's a minimum margin for every single item in the order, or that they want to see the total margin for the order before they ship it. If you've got that kind of a situation for your orders, this tool is very useful for you. You might want to click on Order from History and see for that particular customer, well, what have they ordered in the past? And I can look at an order and see the items that were on it and add those to the order by clicking on the Order button. I can also create a purchase order. Now, Sage has a Create Purchase Order button. Why would we also have a Create Purchase Order button? Well, the reason is because we supply a lot more different options. I might want to use item vendor information, use a specific vendor, and find which vendor I'm using, or update an existing purchase order, not just create a new one. So there are many different options that we have in terms of creating purchase orders, including I want to transfer various information from the header or from optional fields from the order to the purchase order. I want to have a description to be put on each of the orders. And then I want to eventually create the purchase order from it. And again, you will see here, if I've got no item vendor information, I can't create the purchase order. Well, in Sage's case, it just doesn't create the purchase order for those two items. In our case, we display the message, and you might actually say, well, for a specific vendor, I can actually supply those things. I'll select all the things, and now if I create the purchase order, a purchase order was created. So that'll illustrate some of the functionality that we have that adds features to Sage 300, and it's fairly rich in terms of functionality. Just want to check my time here. Looks like I've got about another 5 minutes of talking. Okay. I said that there's many different programs that will do hundreds of operations at a time. I'm going to just show you one, update orders. So again, typically I would create, say, a range of orders. Okay, there are no items defined in the list. Well, that's true. Okay, well, let's do something else. Let's change the expected ship date for an order. And I can do that either for only for one specific item. I can do it for all items, or I can do it from a list of items. And if for a list of items, then I have to provide the list here of the items that I want to do it for. Maybe I want to substitute items. Again, I want to do it for a list of items, and now I'm going to say I want to substitute from this item or from this kit, and I want to substitute a different item. Again, you'll see there's a fair number of options, and I'm just going to talk about one of them or two of them maybe to illustrate what we do. Only substitute items on orders that have never been shipped. Why would we do that? Why is that checkbox there? Well, because if you've partially shipped an order and now you start substituting items on that order, you could create a bit of a mess for yourself. Not that our product will do anything outside of the normal functionality, but it may be unexpected functionality. Another example would be I want to substitute items, but I want to either keep the existing price from the order or pull it from the unit price. Another example of something I can do from update orders is I just updated my price list and I want to update prices, let's say, for all the items on a range of orders, and I can load them and make the change by clicking process. Again, we keep a log file. So that's a very quick look at update orders. There's more detail if you watch the YouTube video that we have. I'm not going to demonstrate this, but this is if you have a lot of prepayments and a lot of invoices and you have to match them, we have a program called Apply Documents that will help you do that. If you want to know everything that you might have to do before month end, that's so easy to demonstrate. Let's just demonstrate it live. These are all the things that you might have to do before month end. For example, there's some incomplete orders. There's a lot of batches that may need to get processed, and you can typically, there's a GL batch open and I want to look and see what's in the batch. I can drill down to it. So that's a very simple function that we provide, and it's included with productivity tools. Everything I've shown you so far is in our single product productivity tools. Now I'm going to show you what do you have to do for download rates if I want to automate that. Well, you want to set up email notifications. There's various other things, but the key thing is I want to download these two exchange rates. And let's say you're in Australia, you might want to download them from the Reserve Bank of Australia. So you would set all of this up. You can create a Windows schedule task to do it, or you can run it interactively and download the rates. And again, you'll see we keep a complete log, which shows you that we've connected to the provider. This is the rate we've downloaded. And you realize, of course, that I've asked for US to Canadian exchange rate, but the Bank of Australia doesn't provide that. Everything it provides is relative to the Australian dollar. So one of the functions that we do would be to triangulate to create a rate. For example, if you needed to convert British pounds into euros or vice versa. That's a quick look at that. Again, AutomateGL consolidation is similar. You say which companies you want to consolidate, and then you would click on a consolidate button, and it would run through the various steps of doing that. I'm just got a couple minutes left before I throw things open for questions, so I'm going to comment on, since I have a minute, let me just show you what that looks like. One of the problems with Sage 300 is as it grows and grows, there are tools like Sage's Integrity Checker that take 6 hours, 8 hours, 20 hours, 3 days to run. Because they read every single order one at a time, and then they load every single detail line in the order one at a time, and then they load every optional field one at a time as separate SQL Server queries, whereas we would do all of that in one step and say, we're not looking to see all the orders, we just want to see the bad orders. And so if I ran our productivity tool, our fast data integrity console product, you will see it running through, and instead of taking, in this case, 3 or 4 minutes, it'll take a few seconds to run. And you can see that we've identified errors in our database. If I look at the log, you can see that we're checking a lot of things. We try and put out in plain language exactly what we're checking. And if I roll down here, you'll see there are the 3 errors that I identified in inventory, and we try and put in a more meaningful error message with some of the names called out. So that's an example of one of our fast products. Fast Clear History, again, it does the same thing as Sage, only taking minutes instead of hours to run. Copy Company is a program that you would use to create a new company just like an existing company. No transactions, but with accounts or vendors. Why would you do that? Well, maybe I'm a construction company and I create a new company for every new building I put up, and I want the same vendors and the same chart of accounts, but of course I want the balances to be 0 and no transactions to be there. Copy Company will do that. You can do the same thing by exporting and importing 20 or 30 different tables. Of course, the problem is if you do that in the wrong order, you have to start all over again. So that's where Copy Company turns an error-prone process into something you can do quickly. There's some of the benefits I talked about earlier on the slide. There's more information you can get by visiting the TaiRox website or by contacting the microchannel account manager.